In other key developments, the Hamas-run health ministry says more than 9,000 people have now been killed in Gaza, and that includes almost 4,000 children now. 336 foreign nationals have left Gaza through the Rafah crossing into Egypt. And US President Joe Biden has called for a humanitarian pause to allow for the delivery of aid and the release of hostages as the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken travels to Israel.
It's important, and the United States is committed to making sure everything possible is done to protect civilians. At the same time, we're determined that this conflict not spread, and we'll be talking to both the Israeli government and partners in the region about what all of us are doing to prevent that from happening.
Sky's Deborah Haynes has the latest from the ground in southern Israel.
Well, he was very careful, wasn't he, Antony Blinken, in reiterating his the US's absolute support to Israel in their right and indeed, he said, obligation to conduct this operation against Hamas in defence of this country after the October the 7th attacks. But yes, you're right, the humanitarian crisis inside Gaza that's happened because of this operation is impossible to ignore as well. Israel says that it takes every step to minimise civilian casualties. It says that it targets only Hamas, but it also acknowledges that Hamas operates within the people, and it blames Hamas for the civilian deaths that happen because of that. But clearly there's huge pressure on Israel as its airstrikes do result in the deaths of civilians, and the Hamas-controlled health authorities putting those numbers, like you said, at above 9,000. That's a huge toll, and clearly pressure on Israel over the way it conducts its war. In terms of what's actually happening, I'm on the Israeli side of the border. Gaza is behind me in the darkness. Every now and again you see a flash from an impact from another strike. The head of the Israeli military has just released a statement on the operation saying that Israeli forces are now inside Gaza City. He says that they've encircled the city in various areas and they are now fighting inside the city. He says they are in close combat with what he described as a cruel enemy. It's a very difficult, dangerous fight. Also today we've heard news from the Hamas-controlled authorities inside Gaza saying that an Israeli airstrike hit a building in the Barrage refugee camp in the central area of the Strip, claiming that 15 people were killed and that others might be buried under the rubble. We've not had a comment from the Israeli military with regards to that strike, but as I've said, Israel, when it conducts airstrikes, it says that it conducts them on the basis of intelligence. For example, you'll remember that strike against the Jubalia refugee camp that's resulted in a lot of deaths. But Israel saying that they were going after a senior Hamas commander and saying that they also killed dozens of Hamas fighters in that operation.